Hey guys, it's Mikayla and welcome to another video in my Applying to Law School series. In this video, we'll be discussing a question that ultimately every single person who's interested in becoming a lawyer must face. That is, what law school should you even apply to? I'll be explaining rankings, going over some factors you should consider when making this big decision, and of course, giving you some details about my personal experience so you have a real life example from someone who's been where you are. But before we get into this video, please leave me a thumbs up down below, subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified of when I post new videos. And with that, let's get into the video. Some students have dreamt of going to law school since they were a child. They had a friend or a family member who went to law school, and they've had their sights set on a specific school since day one. And then there were people like me who were really just focused on which school is going to give me the most money. Whether you fall into one of those two extremes or you fall somewhere in the middle, where you end up going to law school can have a massive effect on your overall experience and your decision of whether you end up following through and becoming a lawyer. Law school is 3 years, and that's a long time to be somewhere you absolutely hate. So with that being said, here are some factors you should consider when making the decision of where you should obtain your Juris Doctor degree. And these factors are in no particular order and is completely dependent on what you think is best for you as an individual. The first factor, money. Which school is going to give you the most in scholarship funds and result in you having the least debt when you graduate? And right along with that, the cost of the school. You can get a 50% scholarship at 2 different schools, but one of them, the school is $30,000 a year, and the other one, it's $100,000 a year. So even though you got the same scholarship at both, it's still going to result in you being in different amounts of debt depending on which one you go to. What state do you want to practice in? Is it important that you go to a law school in the state you plan on living? And along with that, do you care about the location of the law school? Do you want to be near a beach? Do you want to be in the city? Do you want to be in the South? Do you want to be on the West Coast? These are things to consider. Are the programs that the law school has important to you? Some law schools have a focus on environmental law. Some law schools focus on business. Some focus on human rights. Is that important to you? Does that matter? What about the clubs and organizations that the law school has? Are you interested in joining a specific organization that you would like to go to a school that has it? How important is a school's faculty and staff? Does it matter to you if a school has retired judges teaching some of their classes? What about the diversity of the school as a whole? Is it important to you that the school has a high minority population? What about the reputation of a school? What if the students at one school are known for being bullies and at another one they're known for being team players? And lastly, what is the school ranked? Does that even matter to you? These are some of the more prominent categories of things you should take into consideration on the endless list of things you could take into consideration. At the end of the day, it's important for you to decide what matters most to you. And like I mentioned, I was going to give you guys some personal examples, so let me answer these questions from my perspective. For me, money was really important. I was already in debt from undergrad and I did not want to be hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt after law school because that's often what you hear. So I made sure that I chose a school that was going to give me the most in scholarship money while still being a school that I felt like I could thrive at. As far as location goes, I went to the same school for undergrad and law school, so I was very happy not to have to move. Programs weren't super important to me. I just wanted to make sure that they had the basic programs like mock trial. That's what I spent a lot of time in undergrad doing, so I wanted to make sure I went to a school that had a good trial team. Faculty and staff, I mean, the more minority staff members that looked like me they had, the more comfortable I felt, of course, but again, was not a huge consideration for me. Same with diversity. I went to a PWI for undergrad, so if I ended up going to a PWI for law school, that was not going to be a huge issue to me. While the reputation of a school and its students wasn't something super important to me at first, I did find out during my application process that there is a school in Florida, without naming any names, where their first year students are known for ripping pages out of the textbooks in the library so that other first year students will be missing information. Things like that are just crazy, but they are a lot more common than you'd think. And the school I went to was known for everybody being a collective. Everybody is always helping each other out and we're always trying to advance us as a whole. So that was really great. And lastly, ranking. So for those of you who do not know, there is a website called US News and they rank everything academically, but more importantly for this conversation, they rank the law schools. And within those rankings, tiers are formed. So how do you decide what is a good law school and what's not? Here's what I was told. There are 3 basic tiers of law school. There is the first tier, the second tier, and basically everybody else. And I'm not shaming you if you went to a third tier law school. I'm just telling you what was told to me. So your first tier are the schools you want to aim for. Those are schools ranked number 1 through number 50. So obviously there is a lot of schools to choose from in there. And those are the schools you should be primarily setting your sights on if you have the academics for it. Those are the schools that are known for the students having an easier time getting jobs after they graduate, higher bar passage rates. They're just more notorious in general. Then you have the second tier, and the second tier are the schools ranked 51 through 100. Me personally, I applied to one school in the second tier because I was just interested in going to Georgia. I did not end up going to Georgia. I don't know why I was so obsessed with Georgia, but I was, and one of the schools I applied to in Georgia was in the second tier. I think they were like 57 or something at the time. So I did apply to one school in the second tier. There's nothing wrong with those schools inherently. It's just, you really got to get into what these schools can offer you as well, and think about your future after law school and how what school you went to may or may not affect that. And then lastly, the third tier are all of the other schools ranked below 100 or the schools that are just not ranked at all. Those are the schools I was told to avoid. Again, nothing against you if you went there, but if you can go to a first or second tier law school, you probably should aim to do that. So what I did not mention is there is also a tier within the first tier, the first 50 schools, called T14. T14 are the top 14 schools that are notoriously ranked the top 14 in the US News Report. And if you go to one of those schools, you are said to have a much higher chance of success after law school. Those are going to be your Harvards, your Yales, your Princetons. I will link the US News rankings down below so you guys can go in and see what schools are currently ranked as what at this very moment. But as of October of 2021, here are the top 14 schools. And the top 3 or 4 schools, in case you guys didn't know, they often fluctuate. So really, in my opinion, like 1 through 3, it could be any of these at any point in time, depending on when you check. But number 1 is currently Yale. Number 2 is Stanford. Number 3 is Harvard. Number 4 is tied between Columbia University and the University of Chicago. Number 6 is also tied with New York University and the University of Pennsylvania, Cary. Number 8 is the University of Virginia. Number 9 is the University of California, Berkeley. Number 10 is tied between Duke University and the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. Number 12 is Northwestern University, Pritzker. Number 13 is Cornell. And number 14 is the University of California, Los Angeles. But again, that's just for today. So, of course, a lot of the schools I named are the schools that are most well-known, and with that comes money. Those are often the schools that are insanely expensive, and it's kind of one of those things. You have to decide what you want. And that's the purpose of this video, is everybody wants a different thing. Some people know in undergrad that they want to go to a T14 school. They do not care how much debt they get into. They are going T14. That's totally fine. If that's you, great, strive for that. I did not need that. That just wasn't something that I had a goal for. My main focus, like I mentioned earlier, is what school is going to give me the most money. I wanted to go to law school for as little money as I could, and that's what I strive for. But regardless of what your goals are, regardless if you want to go to the number 1 school or you do not mind going to the number 200, I always suggest everybody applies to a reach school. So what is a reach school? To me, a reach school is somewhere you know you could maybe, on a slim chance, if they're in a good mood, get in. It's not impossible, but it's probably not likely. You might be wondering why you would even apply to a school like this. You really, truly never know. When I was applying, my GPA was average, nothing impressive. It wasn't bad, but it just wasn't, something that people were going to see and immediately want to pull me in by. So I knew that I needed to have a good LSAT score. I made sure that was good, personal statement, all of that stuff. But regardless, I knew that there was a school I was interested in a little bit, but it was ranked number 16. It wasn't T14, but it was 16. And I knew there was no way I was going to get into it just with my credentials, and I was okay with that, but I applied anyway. Guess what happened? I got a call from the school that they wanted to set up an interview with their dean, which sounds odd because a lot of law schools do not do interviews, so do not worry if that's something that makes you uncomfortable. That is not common, but again, this was a really high-ranked school. So I was shocked I even got the interview. did the interview, it went super well, you know, whatever, I'm good at interviewing, so that wasn't like a huge issue to me. I ended up getting a 50% scholarship to this school. 50%. And that to me was completely shocking, not at all expected, and that actually made that school a contender because now that school was on my list of places that were giving me scholarship money. So you truly, truly, truly never know. I didn't end up going there, but getting into that school and getting that opportunity just really like reaffirmed, you know, my worth and made me feel confident in my choice of which law school I was going to go to. So I say that to say you truly never know what a particular school is going to be looking for that year. They might have a focus on people with a certain major. They might have a focus on people with a certain extracurricular. You really never know. Always apply to a reach school. You literally have nothing to lose. The worst they can say is no. So regardless of the schools you guys end up wanting to apply to, you're of course going to want to make yourselves the strongest applicants you possibly can be. So that is why I plan on in the future making some videos about your LSAT scores, personal statements, letters of recommendation, and anything else you guys want to know about when it comes to law school applications or law school in general. So if you have any specific questions, any comments at all, leave them down below. I will be sure to either respond or make a video on it. And until then, I really hope this video was helpful and I will see you guys soon with a brand new one. Goodbye and go thrive.